Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Do. So, yeah, I'm going to be reading more of this today. Yeah, you guys can see it, hopefully. Okay. So, last time we left off, hold on, stuff's in the way. We are on chapter 4, and there's a picture, like I said I would show, right there. It's called Breakfast. Now, I can't remember how exactly I did the voices, so you guys can give me a little bit of a break. Let's see. JJ poured another heaping glob of maple syrup onto his pancakes. It blows my mind sometimes how these fat cats live. Do you know there's other types of boilings than hard? They get to choose the boiledness of their eggs, these bunch of elitists. He glanced over at his brother opposite him in the booth. They were in the Grand Chateau's only restaurant, yet another log cabin themed space with plenty of dead animals had adorning the walls. Between them lay a breakfast for 5. Valentine barely picked up his scrambled eggs. What's the matter? Asked JJ. Your Canadian bacon's getting cold. Valentine frowned. The clues just aren't adding up. Oh, this again? JJ rolled his eyes and accepted a refill of coffee from a passing waitress. What happened to the all American institution of breakfast? Do these hash browns mean nothing to you? I bet even Sherlock Holmes himself had respect for his sunny side ups. Sherlock Holmes was English. Would have made a fine American the way he ate those eggs. Look, said Valentine, so much of this isn't making sense. Why did Wallace have that book about spelunking on his desk? Why does this place have secret passageways? Who's going around fixing squeaky door hinges in the middle of the night? Based on what we know, there's still a killer on the loose here on the Grand Chateau. And I'm sorry to tell you this, dear brother, but the whole mystery of it all is affecting my appetite. JJ put down the strip of bacon he was eating and sighed. All right, Val, you want to get into it. Let's get into it. You and I, two sleuths who, despite talking a big game, have never cracked a case, get called up to a snowy resort fortress up in the mountains by an old man with rapidly declining mental faculties. He croaks, and the killer's still on the loose. Now, I have it on good authority that the kind of guys who go looking for killers run the occupational hazard of getting killed themselves. So now I'm caught between two diverging paths. One where I go looking for trouble in pursuit of non-existent paycheck, and the other where I mind my own business and spend a relaxing weekend at a place where if you finish all of the bread in the basket, a waiter will bring you a new basket of bread for free without even asking. Eat your breakfast, gumshoe. All of a sudden, a book slammed down on the table in the only place that didn't have food on it. The boys looked up to see the front desk clerk from the night before. You again? JJ exclaimed. I thought we told you to kick rocks. Shut up, said the young woman. This is important. She tapped the cover of the book. An oral history of Grand Mountain, said Valentine. That book was on Walls's desk. I thought it was strange that he was reading this, so I went back this morning and snagged it on my rounds. Turns out that when John Henry Grande originally built this place. Wait, interrupted Valentine. This place was named after a person? Yeah, John Henry Grande. So the name of this chateau has nothing to do with the size of it? No. What are you getting at here? Let me apologize for my brother, JJ cut in. His favorite game as a child was hit the wall with your head. In any case, just solved the mystery of the regular sized chateau. The woman sighed. Let me back up. 100 years ago, this mountain was trailblazed by the wealthy and world renowned explorer John Henry Grande. It was on this mountain that he built this very chateau that we're all stuck in today. She flipped the book open to a full size picture of a grizzly, yet distinguished mountaineer covered in layers of fur standing at the peak of a mountain. Hey, said Valentine, it's the guy in the painting we see when you walk in. Right, said the young woman. But here's the thing. Something happens in his later years and he goes from wealthy socialite to antisocial hermit. He renounces his wealth and status, goes into hiding, and dies alone in his own private Xanadu. I think that's how you say it. Oh, that's hard to talk. Decades later, this place reopens as a quaint luxury resort. So, what's the big deal? Asked JJ. This mountain has a long and storied history of old men losing their marbles. The big deal is what Wallace P. Gross was trying to figure out. Oh, great, another mystery. The woman glanced over her shoulder to make sure no one was listening, then leaned toward the two. Wallace P. Gross was searching for treasure. JJ's ears perked up. Treasure? I think. See, John Henry Grant renounced his wealth, sure, but no one knows where the money went. Official documents say that it went to charity and his family members. But reading between the lines, you can tell something's fishy. How so? said asked Valentine. Wallace P. Gross wasn't the first person to die on Ground Mountain, said the young woman. She pulled out another book, Advanced Spelunking Techniques. That was on Wallace's desk, too, said Valentine. I thought it was strange that he was reading this. Maybe he needed it as research for his new book. But then I got into thinking. I went and looked up the statistics on mountaineering related deaths on Grand Mountain. Surprise, it's normally high. She shut both of the books and leaned in further still. I think the treasure, or whatever Gross was looking for, is hidden somewhere on Grand Mountain, and everyone who's gone searching for it has died. Did their heads explode too? Asked JJ. No, and that's where this gets interesting. All of these mountaineering deaths can be accounted for, mostly adventurers out of their death going off trail and falling into their demise. Wallace was different. He wrote mysteries, so it's pretty clear he liked solving mysteries. I think he was trying to crack a code. That's a bit of a jump, said JJ with a raised eyebrow. Wallace and I were friends. I liked reading his books, and he liked talking to me about them. He gave me copies and even quizzed me on things after I read them. And, prompted JJ, and then I got caught in a glimpse of his manuscript. Wallace had been at the book for the last 3 years, and rumor around the chateau was that he'd barely even started it. He was usually extremely secretive about whatever he was working on in here, but this one time I was in his study talking to him, and he had this manuscript out in the open. What'd you see? Asked Valentine. Only the title, The Secret of the Grand Chateau. That could be anything, JJ scoffed. But it could be something. What did you agree it's worth looking into? The one hooked her thumb behind her at a person in a booth on the other end of the restaurant. It was the man in the ponytail and sunglasses. See that guy? That's Thad Newberry, Wallace's P. Gross's literary agent. What's he doing here? JJ asked. He checked in the day before Wallace was shot, paid in cash, and was super cagey anytime someone tried to make small talk with him. What I'm thinking is that Wallace was hunting for the treasure of John Henry Grant instead of writing a book. And you think that has something to do with that treasure? Asked JJ. Let's say your ticket to wealth just all of a sudden stops providing and he starts telling you about some grand treasure he's on a hunt for. Then maybe you come up here and see for yourself that yes, he's on to the real deal. But what if you start getting greedy and decide to take the money for yourself? The conversation that Marcella and Dad were having last night, exclaimed Valentine. What? She asked. When we found the secret passageway, we followed it down to a vent that overlooked the ballroom. Dad and Marcella were there, and neither of them looked happy. Dad said that if they could lay low, then they'd make it out fine. That's an angle to explore, said the young woman. Maybe Marcella and Dad were in the league with each other. Hmm, said JJ. It is funny that they'd both be up here at the same time. But could they kill if it came down to it? It could be possible, said Valentine. Wallace calls up to Private Eyes and looks like he's about to blab. Maybe they panic and take things into their own hands rather than risk the info of getting their wrong hands. So you'll help me? She asked. Wait, said JJ. Who even are you? The woman sat up straight and smoothed down her Grand Chateau uniform. Trudy de la Rosa, front desk receptionist and inquisitive person. Well, I'm flattered. Trudy de la Rosa, front desk receptionist and inquisitive person. But the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club is closed for business this weekend. JJ, Valentine said, come on. Valentine, my dear brother, can you join me for a quick Ghost Hunters Adventure Club official sidebar conversation? Valentine sighed. Fine. They ducked under the booth and spoke in whispers out of earshot from Trudy. One, this is dangerous, said JJ. Two, I was so much happier when I had to worry about your was breakfast. You said yourself there wasn't a payday in this gig, but now there's treasure. I want to solve the case and I know you want the loot. So now we have both has skin in this game. JJ thought for a moment. Probably about the private island he'd buy if he somehow amassed untold riches. God, I am sorry. Fine, you know the way to my greedy little heart. But how do we trust Miss Know It All up here? I think she's telling the truth. She could be waiting to explore our heads herself. Waiting to explode our heads herself. The Ghost Hunters Adventure Club would outsmart her before that happens, said Valentine, taking into account the fact that they had never cracked a case before, but also that JJ had a large ego. You're right, replied JJ. He sighed. Are we actually going to solve this mystery? Only if we solve it together. The brothers popped up from under the table. Congratulations, Trinity Della Rosa, said JJ. My brother and trusted advisor has convinced me to offer you a provisional membership to the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club. Provisional membership entitles you to a junior detective title and a Ghost Hunters Adventure Club branded decoder ring. It does not allow you to know the secret handshake. What? Replied Trudy. Join your club? I just came to you two with all this information I had figured out on my own. You want me to be your junior detective? If anything, you two should be working for me. JJ snorted. Like, I'd like to see whatever crime solving and ghost hunting business into your form. You two are idiots. We're two idiots that you need because we're the only people on this mountain stupid enough to believe that when you're telling us enough to investigate us further. You want help figuring this out? You gotta play by our rules. Judy tried to reply, but the logic of JJ's last sentence was half baked enough to leave her at lost for words. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's discuss terms. JJ grabbed a paper napkin and scribbled on it with a pen. How does a 40-40-10 split sound to everyone? That's 90%, said Trudy. Come on, JJ, don't do this, said Valentine. One day a legally binding contract written on a napkin will save your life. You mark my words. But fine. JJ crumbled the napkin and grabbed a new one. Trudy, your friend drives a hard bargain on your behalf. How about we do a three-way split of revenue? Okay, Trudy agreed. Well, that's expensive, of course. I'd really like to buy that motorcycle kickstand back. Sure. Then it's settled, said JJ, signing the napkin and passing it around the table for counter signatures. Welcome to the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club. JJ extended his hand and then gave Trudy a firm handshake. Valentine clapped politely. So let's plan, said JJ. We gotta figure out who killed Wallace P. Gross and how they did it. Then we gotta find the treasure. As for the killers, I think Marcel and Thad are our own private suspects. Could they have both done it? Asked Valentine. Possibly, or perhaps one could have acted independently of the other. Remember how Marcella was talking to Wallace in the courtyard? It was uncomfortable, Valentine remarked to Trudy. I'm aware. She once called me a ghoulish street harlot when I forgot to bring her an extra shower cap. Over Trudy's shoulder, JJ saw Thad finishing up his breakfast. He scanned the small group of restaurant patrons to find Marcella on the other end of the room, wearing black, watching her tea get cold from behind her sunglasses. I think we can find out more if we tail our two friends here. What would they have for us other than a confession? Asked Valentine. The fact that the locks were broken on Wallace's desk drawers rings alarm bells, said Trudy. There's a missing manuscript on the loose, and I think they might know the whereabouts. We know they were both out late and together last night, Valentine stated, and that the door to Wallace's study was unlocked. They could have grabbed it easily. Right, said JJ. So I think the logical next step would be to watch these two from afar and see if we can find out where they stashed it. Deputy Parkin is on patrol, though, said Valentine. You're right, and they keep an eye on us. JJ directed his attention to Trudy. Okay, newbie. Looks like you got yourself your first field mission. Trudy rolled her eyes. Just tell me what I gotta do. I'm glad you asked, said JJ. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a hardcover book, handing it to Trudy. The Ghost Hunters Adventure Club Field Manual. I then print out at a vanity press and bought enough to get a wholesale markdown. I figure once the detective business picks up, this'll be an amazing ancillary revenue stream. JD flipped to the chapter titled Tailing a Perp. Give this thing a read and take notes. There's a short quiz at the end of the chapter, as well as a word jumble that should help you out. But the gist of it is this. Keep a safe distance from your target and don't arouse suspicion. You work at this hotel and have the uniform, so you should have relatively free roam of these grounds, right? Right. Perfect, said JJ, popping out one last soft-boiled egg into his mouth. Trudy de la Rosa, you're on the case. Chapter 5. The New Recruit. That's what Trudy looks like. Cool. That's not too bad. Hmm. Give me 1 second. All right. Trudy de la Rosa had returned to her seat at the reception desk in the lobby of the Grand Chateau. Since the ongoing blizzard prevented new patrons from checking in and old ones from checking out, her job was mainly relegated to filling phone calls from stir-crazy hotel guests and delivering toiletries to rooms. This only kept her so busy for long, so she was focusing on her new job, that of being junior detective Trudy de la Rosa of the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club. She had reluctantly read the Tailing a Perp chapter of the field manual twice, aced the test at the back of the chapter, completed the word jumble, and even did a few of the connected dot puzzles in the other chapters. JJ wasn't smart, but he made good connected dot puzzles. On a trip to take fresh towels to a room on the fourth floor, she spotted Marcella P. Gross at her usual position on the bench in the courtyard near the angel statue. She had somehow endured near whiteout conditions to get to that spot. Trudy couldn't get too good of a read on the woman. It was what she was doing due to the fall snowing, but something about her sagging posture made Trudy deduce that she was sad. She made a note that she would have to research that later. The one person she had trouble finding was Thad Newberry, Wallace P. Gross's longtime literary agent and a man paradoxically in the same location of his client at the time of his death. She noted that he had gone straight to his room after breakfast, and to her knowledge, after repeated checks, he had not exited. Maybe it was time for another reconnaissance mission. God, that was a word. Trudy set the Ghost Hunters Adventure Club field manual under her desk and looked around to see that neither Madame Foyner nor any of the few co-workers stuck up here were paying too much attention. If anyone stopped her, she could just say she was making her rounds. The Watt brothers were right. This uniform was the perfect cover. She rounded the lobby, searching for any clue of Thad's whereabouts, peeking into the restaurant to find nothing. The bar was nearly empty, perfectly reasonable for the early afternoon shift of the chateau. She thought for a moment about interrogating the bartender to see if she could shed any light on Thad's motives. He was a nightly fixture at the bar and had a penchant for talking. Maybe he had let something slip that the bartender had overheard. No, it's not the right time for that, she thought. Her nosing around would only arouse suspicion of her point at this of her at this point. Jeez. She didn't want the killer knowing she was looking for him. It was best for her to keep a low profile and utilize her eyes and ears. Both of those, coincidentally, were solutions to the connect the dot puzzles in the field manual. With the lobby found clueless, she walked up to the grand staircase to see if anything had changed from the night before. The door to the study was closed, of course, and she didn't want to arouse suspicion by snooping around there for clues. Nobody was in the ballroom, and Dad wasn't anywhere to be found in the library. Only a few hotel guests dying to pass the time until the blizzard ended and the roads could be plowed. For being a literary agent, Thad sure didn't seem to be all that dedicated to reading. So where could he be? Trudy thought back to Dad's check-in. She remembered him complaining loudly about forgetting to bring any of his winter clothes to the hotel, as if she could do anything about it. But that meant there was no way he was going outside to exploring the grounds. And if he wasn't in any of the public areas, that left only one place for him to be, his own hotel room. Trudy went down the hall and to the elevator, riding it all the way up to the fourth floor. The elevator dinged, the doors opened, and she stepped out. Phew, she said, hugging up against a corner wall. She found that making sound effects made her feel like a better detective. Peering around the corner, she saw Thad Newberry's suite, room 524, all the way at the end of the long hallway. It was time to make her move. She tiptoed the 29 steps to Thad Newberry's room, adding her own soundtrack to the mission as she went along. Past the windows overlooking the courtyard, past the stairwell that would lead her back down in a pinch, and all the way to the very end of the hallway, where she picked up a noise coming from Dad's room. The closer she got, the louder it got. Was it a conversation? That doesn't sound like Dad's voice, she thought. Who could he be talking to? Who could be talking to him right now? Is there even anyone else in the hotel who he associates with? Maybe he met someone at the bar last night and they're conspiring right now. She stifled the urge to squeak. No time for sound effects now. It's not safe enough. She checked over her shoulder in case any culprits had snuck up behind her. The carpets were plush and it would have dampened any sound. Nobody was there. Chancing it, she leaned her ear against the door to hear the conversation as clear as day. Sports. Dad Newberry was watching a sports program on TV. Aw, man, Trudy said under her breath. Dad spending his day watching TV wouldn't help the investigation get any further. Dejected, she turned around and slinked back toward the elevator, making sure to create the correct whomping footsteps sound effects to denote failure. Passing the window, she decided to do one last check on Marcella P. Gross to ensure that her location had not changed. Peering down below to the courtyard, she spotted the familiar black fleck moving through the still howling storm. She's on the move. Suspect on the move. Alarm bells were ringing inside Trudy's head. She had to get to the bottom floor of the Grand Chateau so she could follow the movements of her subject. Deciding in that split moment that it was faster, she dashed for the stairwell at the opposite end of the hallway near the elevator. Trudy made a racket descending all 5 floors down the echoing stairwell and would have burst out of the door in a noisy huff had not she remembered that the exit was right next to Madame Foyner's office. Trudy froze when her feet hit the first floor landing. She caught her breath, smoothed out her uniform, and exited the stairwell with the grace and care of an exemplary Grand Chateau employee. The coast was clear. Thankfully, no Madame Foyner in sight. Trudy peered across the lobby at the entrance of the courtyard, where Marcella P. Gross should be. She barely caught a glimpse of black, expensive fur pass across the corner. Trudy did her most graceful, fastest walk across the lobby. Where could the perp be heading? Rounding the corner, she caught another dash of black fur entering the elevator. Ah, nuts, Trudy said. She speed-walked back to the stairwell. Marcella P. Gross. Marcella P. Gross, she repeated, trying to jog her memory. What room was she staying in? Her memory came back to her in a flash. Marcella P. Gross, room 419. Trudy had checked her in a week before Wallace died at 12:25 in the afternoon. Marcella had remarked that Trudy's uniform was tacky and boorish, suggesting that she let her manager know for the sake of the rest of the hotel patrons who must have been too embarrassed to mention anything. 419, that's where she must be going. But Trudy had to be sure. As soon as she got into the stairwell, she darted up the stairs as fast as she could. She made it to the door to the second floor and burst out of it, looking toward the elevator banks. She saw Marcella's elevator. She saw the floor indicator above it, a small arrow turning in a radian from left to right. The arrow reached the second floor, the number 2 lighting up. Ding! The arrow kept moving. She was still going up. Trudy dashed up the steps to the third floor, rammed through the door, and shot her gaze over to the elevators. Ding! Trudy ran back up the stairs, her heart racing faster now. Fourth floor. Ding! Here was a make it or break it floor. Trudy let the adrenaline propel her upward as she made it up another flight of stairs. She opened the door just in time for the elevator to pass. Ding! Trudy's thoughts raced. There was one more floor, and Marcella didn't keep company with anyone else at the hotel other than Thad Newberry and Wallace P. Gross, deceased. Logically, Trudy had to conclude that the only place Marcella could be going was Thad Newberry's room. But again, she had to be sure. Trudy turned to race up the last flight of stairs. Her heart screamed as she took the steps two by two, summoning her last bits of strength to make it to the final floor of the Grand Chateau in time. Chest heaving, Trudy de la Rosa burst through the door to the hallway and bounced off the rotund belly of Deputy Jihan Park, knocking the wind out of herself when she landed on the floor. Oh, said Deputy Park. He bent down to help her up. Deputy Park, whether he knew it or not, was blocking Trudy's eyeline to the elevator banks. She heard a ding. At least she thought she did. Her ears buzzed from exertion, and it felt like someone was slicing a cold knife through her lungs. She tried her best to angle herself better so that she could see down the hallway, but the deputy seemed genuinely concerned for her well-being. Say, said the deputy, what are you doing running up these stairs? Trudy's heart somehow found a way to beat even faster. Her brain screamed for an alibi. Anything. Come on, Trudy, you always have a plan. I, I like to get a little workout in during my breaks. It keeps me healthy. This was the most physical exertion Trudy had endured in her 18 years of life. Park laughed. Oh, what a fun idea. It's really important for youngsters like yourself to keep a healthy body as well as a healthy mind. Trudy nodded politely, trying her hardest to keep her breathing under control. She kept trying as inconspicuously as possible to see around the deputy, but his good-natured talkativeness kept getting in the way. What's your workout routine like? He asked. I'm always looking for pointers myself. Trudy thought she caught a glimpse of a fur coat walking down the hallway. It must be Marcella P. Gross. Mrs. Park is always on my case to drop a few pounds. In a perfect world, I would start my morning with a proper stretching routine, followed by 20 each of squats, lunges, and push-ups. Deputy Park went on. In a perfect world, of course. Trudy's mind went into deduction mode. This was a mustard stain on Deputy Park's left flapple and breadcrumbs in the fibers of his uniform. He had a turkey sandwich for lunch. His mustache was waxed. He cared about his appearance and must carry wax on his person since he wasn't aware that he'd be staying the night here. One of the buttons on his uniform was mismatched. Must have been tailored recently. Trudy worked over the information in her mind in a matter of milliseconds. Every moment counted. She had to see if Marcella was going into Thad's room. Your, your shoe's untied. If she could have smacked her forehead without arousing more suspicion, she could have. Oh, said Deputy Park. He bent down to address his shoelaces. When he kneeled on the chateau's carpet, Trudy was able to see all the way down the hallway. There she was, Marcella P. Gross. She waited nervously at the door to room 524, Thad Newberry's suite. The door opened slightly, and the woman quickly slid behind it, glancing over her shoulder as she went in. It was then that Trudy and Marcella locked eyes. The door closed as quickly as it opened, and Trudy heard the deadbolt lock from all the way across the hallway. False alarm, said Deputy Park. Guess they were tied after all, but I made sure to double knot them just in case. I think my break time is just about up, Trudy said. It was really nice talking to you, Deputy. She moved to make a hasty exit down the stairwell. Hold on a second, said the deputy. Trudy froze in place. There was a commotion last night, sometime around midnight. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Um, no, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I spoke to Madame Foyner today, and she told me that you should have been the one running the night desk. Only no one was there. If you weren't at your desk, then where were you? Trudy turned to look in the deputy's eyes. The friendliness was gone. I was getting my night stares in. Oh, said the deputy and immediately relaxed. Nothing wrong with a little nighttime exercise. Do make sure you cool down before you go to bed, though. And also be careful around here when you're on your own. The investigation is still ongoing, and some people are trying to convince me that the real culprit is a ghost, but with a gun. Trudy nodded politely again. Once she was on the other side of the stairwell door, she realized a huge sigh of relief had gripped the railing for support. It took a while for her heart rate to return to normal. She had to tell the brothers about Marcel P. Gross's rendezvous. There's something fishy going on in this hotel room, J.J. Watts said. He paced around the bedroom suite he had secured. No, duh, replied Trudy. Valentine turned off the TV. Trudy was leaning against the door to the suite. So, we got two people acting suspiciously, he said, telling each other late at night that they can't be seen together, and then meeting in the middle of the day as inconspicuously as possible. She caught me looking when she went in, said Trudy. I'm worried she might think I'm suspicious of something. So what do we do? What we do is we break into Dad's room while he's away and conduct a thorough search. JJ decided. Trudes, you gotta have an extra key to this room, right? I mean, I would, if it weren't for the fact that all the extra keys in Madame Foyner's office, she's find out the moment I tried to lift them. Got it, said JJ. Guess we're back to breaking and entering. Trudy, you're still on front desk duty, right? Not for much longer. I'm supposed to be doing my mid-afternoon stares right now. What? That's not important, but yes, I'm off in time for dinner. Perfect. All right, Trudy, you're our eyes and ears in the field. At some point, Thad Newberry will leave his room for dinner, and Marcel Pigros will presumably go off to some dark corner of the chateau to brood. When that happens, give us a call. Valentine, you're on distraction duty. I hate distraction duty, said Valentine. I know you do, but we're trying to get some character growth in you. It's when you put yourself out of your comfort zone that you learn about yourself. Plus, the other part of the plan is the breaking and entering, and I know you hate that more. True. Well, what do I do if Dad starts heading back up to his room? I don't know. Pitch him a book idea or something. He's a lit agent after all. Trudy, I'll only need a few moments to search Dad's room. But I can't do it twice as fast with you there. What do you say, Cadet? You win? Please stop calling me Cadet. Splendid! All right, team, let's do this. Trudy, I'm going to need you to turn around for a second so Val and I can do the secret handshake. But do good on this mission, and maybe you too will learn it. Hey, it's not too bad. Let's see how long the next chapter is. Okay, not too bad, but I will be right back. Okay, I am back. So, chapter 6, it's called The Pitch. I hope everybody can see that. Okay, the phone inside of Watts's brother's suite rang. On the second ring, JJ picked it up and put the receiver to his ear. The voice on the other end of the line was Trudy's. Banana, she said. That was the code word. The mission was go. JJ nodded to Valentine, who got up and left the room, taking the elevator up to the fifth floor. Stopping in front of the room 524, he took a deep breath, then knocked 3 times. After a few long moments, a voice came from the other side of the door. Who is it? Mr. Newberry, it's Valentine Watts. I think I have some valuable information that you might want to hear. A longer silence. Valentine's heart beat faster at each passing moment. Felt like it would be the end of the plan. Then, what is it? Sir, I think it might be best if we sat down and had a meal over it, if you don't mind. More silence. Valentine was ready to call it in the abort, which was him leaning his head out of the window and cawing like a bird so that his brother could hear. The door swung open, and before him stood Thad Newberry in a button-down shirt with flames at the bottom. He still had his trademark sunglasses and ponytail. He sized up Valentine up and down. You got 5 minutes, kid. Thad followed Valentine silently down the elevator to the first floor. On the way to the restaurant, Valentine spotted Marcella P. Gross smoking in the non-smoking section of the bar, ignoring the bartender's pleading. He glanced over at the front desk on the reception area and met eyes with Trudy de la Rosa, thumbing his nose at her. She took the cue and left her station to walk toward the elevator banks. She kept her head down as she passed by Madame Foyner, talking sternly with the tall groundskeeper. Once seated, Thad crossed his arms and sighed. All right, kid. What's so important that you had to drag me all the way down here to talk about? Valentine took a deep breath and leaned in. Thad followed suit. Valentine stared deep into Mr. Newberry's eyes, just past his sunglasses. I got a great book idea for you. Trudy knocked on the door to the Watt Brothers suite in the prescribed too quick, one slow, too quick fashion that J.J. had taught her. He opened the door as soon as the knocks were done. Good to go? Good to go. They took the elevator to the fifth floor and walked down the long hallway to room 524. Trudy kept looking at while JJ got on his knees in front of the door and unfurled his trusty lock-picking set. Selecting his trusty scraper and the correct tensioner for the job, he set to work on the lock. But before he inserted the tensioner, he thought for a moment, put his tools down, and tried the door handle. The door to room 524 opened. JJ frowned at Trudy. Nobody lock their doors? Thad Newberry stood up from his chair. You know, this always happens. Thanks, but no thanks, kid. Wait, said Valentine. Thad looked at him expectantly. I know you were who you were from the moment I saw you. You're the Thad Newberry. You're literary titan of the industry. Well, titan sounds like a bit of an overstatement. Nonsense! The second I laid eyes on you, I knew that you were the guy out there making careers happen. Your trademark sunglasses were a dead giveaway. So I say to myself, this is my one chance to get into collaboration with the man with the unparalleled eye for literary talent. Valentine flashed an uncharacteristic smile. What do you say? What do you say, pal? Just give me the time of day and I'll knock your socks off. Dad sat back down. A smart person knows when and where they're dumb and who to ask for help. I think you've got a knack for finding the smart people in the room. He leaned back into his chair. All right, kid, hit me with what you got. Valentine Watts truly had not believed would get this far. He frantically searched around the room for inspiration. It's your classic story of good versus evil. Dad stared at him with a blank expression. And, it's about a. He scanned the room again, spotting a grizzled patron with an eye patch who looked like he harbored a terrible secret. Some animal heads on the wall structured in a way to suggest long and storied lust for conquest. And a waitress across the restaurant serving coffee whose aspirations obviously laid well beyond her life in the food business. He couldn't think of anything. It's about two brothers, he blurted. That's a start, said Thad, still unimpressed. Well, where's the conflict? What's the adversity that have to overcome? They're on the run from their past. That side. It's been done before. I mean, they're literally being chased by their past. Valentine began perspiring. He had to pull himself out of the tailspin that he was currently in. Someone from their past is out to get them, to drag them back to the life of lying, cheating, and stealing. She's the embodiment of pure evil. That pinched the bridge of his nose. So let me get this straight. Your story is about two brothers running from a woman. They're in a gang. Right, they're in a gang. Is there anything you're trying to achieve? Any goal, something that might have mass market appeal in the 13 to 17 demographic? Was them being in a gang too much? Does inner conflict count? Okay, said Thad. He got up out of his chair. I'm clearly dealing with an amateur here. I know we're stuck inside a hotel until this passes over, but please don't even think about bending my ear again unless you have an actual story to tell. I deal in mystery. I deal in intrigue. I deal in action. I do not deal in half-cocked stories about brothers just trying to get by. Thad turned to make his way back to his room. Don't call me. I'll call you. Wait! Thad turned with a sigh. Valentine realized that he was just a hair away from failing his mission. In this moment, he realized something that many young writers fail to figure out and many veteran writers woefully ignore. You have to sell your book by any means necessary. And to do that, sometimes you have to compromise your initial creative vision. Literary agents are not an intelligent bunch, but as they hold the keys to the proverbial kingdom of publishing, they must be pandered to. He saw Dad's ponytail. He saw Dad's sunglasses. He examined Dad's demeanor. He had an idea. The woman, Valentine said. What if she had three boobs? Valentine cringed. The mission was over. He had to find a way to alert JJ and Trudy as quickly as possible. Dad paused in his tracks. That blank expression hidden behind his trademark sunglasses seemed to stare through Valentine's soul. He walked back to the table, sat down, and leaned in. I'm listening. JJ and Trudy entered room 524 and immediately cased the joint. Before them stood a large hotel suite, larger even than Valentine JJ's upgraded suite, with an unmade bed and an open suitcase worth of clothes strewn across chairs and thrown on the floor. Okay, said JJ, we have 2 minutes to find what we're looking for and get out of here. I love Valentine, but I doubt that any book pitches he came up with have any commercial viability. He checked under the bed to see if there were any stray clues lying about. Only dust bunnies. We're looking for the manuscript or anything that'll give us a better idea of where he's hiding it. Do you think that Wallace could have emailed it to him? Probably not, said Trudy. Wallace P. Gross told me multiple times, unprompted, that he thinks computers are the devil. She picked up through the clothes in Dad's closet. Does this guy only wear button-down shirts with flames on them? There's a few in here with dragons, said JJ. Check his suitcase. Maybe there's a hard copy of something that'll be useful. Trudy picked up some of the clothes covering the suitcase on the bed and peered inside. Here's something, she said, pulling out an old envelope packed full with letters. JJ closed the empty cabinet and he just searched and walked over to Trudy. What is it? Trudy thumbed through the letters, reading them as fast as she could. Looks like correspondences between Wallace P. Gross, Thad Newberry, and some publishing company called Bradford and Bradford. JJ clenched his fist. Bradford and Bradford, those dirty rats. Never I met a more dishonest and unkind publishing house. The letters get angrier and angrier as time goes on. Seems like Wallace was well overdue on his manuscript, and the publishing house had been putting on the pressure. Here's one of Thad Newberry pleading with Wallace to send him something, anything of the new book. Trudy got to the last letter. Here's something. A letter from Wallace to Thad, dated 2 weeks ago. Dear Thad, could you read it in a more blustery, collegiate voice? Asked JJ. Trudy rolled her eyes. Dear Thad, I hope this letter finds you well. As my literary agent and close confidant for the last 20 years, I feel as if I owe you the complete honesty due to a man of your stature. The truth is that I've not put a single word of the new novel to ink in the time that I've been at the chateau. Uncharacteristic of me, I know. I'm usually the one client who can scribble out a manuscript over a long weekend. The truth is that I've uncovered something far greater, a mystery in my own backyard that promises untold riches. There exists a secret passage leading beneath the Grand Chateau, and I have found the entrance to it behind the bookshelf of my study. Turns out John Henry Grande was a mysterious man who had renounced his fortune and hidden it somewhere in the bowels of Grand Mountain. So you were right, said JJ. There was a glimmer in his eyes. He felt like they were on the right track to the treasure. It keeps going, Trudy said, continuing to read from the letter. I spend my nights exploring the catacomb-like structure beneath the grounds, mapping it thoroughly. There's so much more than I haven't yet been able to solve. But I'm hoping that by the time I see you next, I'll have more to report. The mystery is nearly solved, my dear Mr. Newberry. Until our next correspondence, Wallace P. Gross. Trudy placed the letter back where she found it. There's no more letters after that. That must have come straight up to the chateau after he got this letter. Makes sense. Maybe something went wrong in the two between them and his head exploded. That still doesn't explain Marcella's involvement. True. JJ thought for a moment. It could be what triggered the murder in the first place. Maybe that and Marcella had a prior involvement where they knew they could get rich off the old man if they offed him. Maybe, said Trudy. Or maybe they found out he wasn't as off the rails as they thought he was and decided to grab the money for themselves. JJ placed the pile of clothes back on the suitcase. Sorry. Luckily, neither of them can leave until this storm blows over. So we got time. For now, though, I think I know where we need to go to next. Okay, this one's kind of longer. So we're gonna end it there for tonight. So I got a couple chapters in, but let me know what you guys think. You guys like this book so far? I think it's kind of neat. And I know I'm not the great with voice acting, but um, yeah, maybe any comments or whatever. Um, trying to get caught up on this some more next time. So make sure to follow me here on Twitch under Steph Foxy Gamer and to check out my YouTube channel under Steph Foxy. I do a lot of review stuff and I upload these videos eventually. So, yeah, I think I'm going to call it here and I will see you soon. All right, thanks for watching, listening, whatever. Maybe get one of these books for yourselves. I'll put a link in the description. So, thanks again. All right, bye.